has consistently produced far more credible people than Bola Tinubu. The only thing Bola Tinubu has ever had to offer throughout his entire time when he came into public consciousness in 1991 to date has been basically money backed up with violence. But there have been people who have had real substance from that Yoruba political establishment. So I think it's the fault of the people that they did not entrust their destiny to those more credible people. There have been several credible Yoruba leaders since the death of Obafemi Awolowo. Tinubu was the one that they should not have given it to, and because of money or whatever peculiar reason there was, Tinubu ended up maneuvering himself into pole position as de facto leader of the Yoruba political establishment. He should never have had that position. So ultimately, it's the people that are blamed. Why did they let him?
I bet that's a question that majority of them will have to answer. David, one of your greatest works is that of the Southern Kaduna crisis. Yes. In fact, it was one of those documented jobs you did with other people as well that spanned over 500 pages of documents. I saw that. Now, one of the things people were asking then was that those who perpetrated that kind of atrocity, genocide to be precise, right? Religious genocide in that part of, including the entire Middle Belt, they were those who were in Buhari's government. Indeed, they were protected at the time. And one of the things people said was that if justice was to be served, a day will come that Buhari will have no immunity to cover these guys anymore, right? Now, I know the whole problem is still very much existing, right? Before it becomes something that will begin to keep record of the atrocities done under Tinubu for however long it lasts, are there no means of putting together, I'm talking about those concerned from Southern Kaduna, to begin to seek international manhunt and justice for these characters, including Buhari, if I may ask? A little bit deviation now.
So the very disappointing and very unfortunate thing that I've come to understand about how the world works over the past years is that the concept of there being a rules-based international order is completely fictitious. It doesn't exist. The countries of this world that have power to create and enforce the institutions and rules that people are supposedly signed up to. So your ICC, what's it called? The Hague in the Netherlands, all these treaties, Geneva Convention, UN Human Rights, UN 2000 Convention on Human Rights, all of those things, they exist, but they are only enforced in exceptional circumstances. How I know this was shortly after the Lekki massacre in 2020. Now, the Lekki massacre was not, even though within Nigeria, the government tried so hard to try and do this gaslighting effort to try and convince people that it didn't happen. I'll say this very clearly for anybody who is listening. The international community was very, very aware of what happened. They knew it even better than we did. They were very, very aware of what happened. I'll also say this, even though I've never said this before. There is evidence that exists, and I'm talking about visual evidence that nobody has seen before. Even I haven't seen it before, but it exists, right? And these people have seen this evidence, so they know for a fact the ugliness of what happened on that night. They know it all. They do. And what happened in the aftermath of that event, in the aftermath of that, I fled Nigeria. A few other people like me also fled the country. And we did a lot of engagement with these international entities, these foreign partners. And what we realized was that these people, to say that they don't care is even giving them too much credit. It's like you are sitting opposite someone and the person is not even looking at you with disdain. He's looking through you. It's like you're not even there. You don't exist. Our lives do not matter to them. That's just the unfortunate reality of how this works. I remember I was in 2021, I was speaking to someone from, off the record anyway, I was speaking to someone from the EU delegation to Nigeria. right? Because we met in an unspecified country I won't mention. And I asked him point blank that why are you guys saw what Buhari did on October 2020. Why are you still happy for him to fly into your countries? You shake hands with your president, there's no issue. And what the man told me, strictly off the record anyway, but what he told me, and I've publicized this before, so it's fine to say it here. What he told me was that the EU and the UK, their number one policy priority when it comes to dealing with any issue regarding Nigeria or sub-Saharan Africa is migration. That's the only thing that matters. So as far as they were concerned, human rights is pretty much a secondary issue. So if what it means to protect human rights is to protect people who are protesting against a dictator and to stop the dictator from using lethal force against those people, by protecting those people against the dictator the way it was done in Libya under Gaddafi, where you recall Gaddafi tried to use the Libyan Air Force against protesters. And then the what's it called, NATO stepped in to protect the protesters, and that's how come the Gaddafi regime ended. Basically, to prevent kind of scenario from recurring, they'd rather sit back this time around. And the reason they don't want that kind of scenario to recur is not because they care or they don't care about protecting you from a dictator. It's not that they want you to be ruled by a dictator or they don't want you to be ruled by a dictator. Their only problem is if anything threatens the stability of that country, that means that you people are going to leave your country and are going to start marching your black asses toward the Mediterranean to try and cross to Europe. And that must be resisted by any means necessary. So if it means that they will arm Museveni, or they will arm Paul Biya, or they will arm Buhari or whoever to shoot protesters in the streets to maintain that stability, they will do so. That was the import of what he was saying, basically. So the so-called international community is never going to do anything. They're not interested. We've seen them again in their true colors. Um, More recently, after because I know the conversations that I've had with some of these players off camera, off record, they know what happened on February 25. They know what happened. They're very, very, very aware. And these same people, I mean, the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak was the very first foreign head of state to go and to issue official congratulations to Bola Tinubu. You think Rishi Sunak did not know that Tinubu did not win that election? He knew. He knows better than we do. He knew the MI5 and the MI6 are very, very, very good at their job. He knows. So that's unfortunately how the world works. So it's not something that gives me any pleasure to say at all. It's something that almost breaks my heart. But the truth is that we are not important in global terms. We're just not. Maybe if we were more economically relevant to the outside world, so if we were like Hong Kong, or if we were Ukraine, or if we were, a country that has some kind of significance to in economic terms or in geostrategic terms, maybe they would take more of an interest. But as far as they're concerned, you're in sub-Saharan Africa, sufficiently far away from our borders, and then separated by that huge boundary, that huge barrier called the Sahara Desert. So unless there is anything that provides enough of an incentive for you to try and cross the Sahara to get to where we are, then it's fine. And our job is to make sure that this situation that can lead to there being an incentive to cross that desert doesn't arise. So we must maintain you exactly where you are. You're exactly where we like you. It's very unfortunate, but that's how the world sees us.
So one of the legacies, one of the legacy of Buhari is that it got Nigeria more divided, agitation everywhere, north, south, east, west, and all that, and they couldn't, by any chance, bring them closer. So we have seen the bigotry associated with these guys, the one that everybody confessed that they've never seen before. The bigotry that got to a stage whereby if you look clean and you smell nice, possibly you are not Yoruba, even if you are. That kind of bigotry that got people so blinded that they were pointing at their neighbor to be attacked because of election and all of that. So if Buhari, that didn't do up to this, couldn't keep Nigeria united, and we know where we are right now, where do you see Tinubu and then the people that are already disconnected with Nigeria, if he succeeds or escapes the judicial armor that some people are still hoping to save them? Where do you see Tinubu and Nigeria coming together with all this bigotry I just mentioned? In your view, David?
So, I mean, we're already Tinubu. Like I should specify, Tinubu already feels like he's bulletproof. He already feels like he's untouchable. I mean, how many people do you know who can have the kind of record that's? I mean, literally has something on public record stating that he has been involved in heroin trafficking in the US. It's official court document, and he's president. And the US government sent him official congratulations. There's an article on the White House website saying congratulations to His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu from the country that convicted him. So of course he feels like he's untouchable. Maybe he is. So what I can say in all of this is that the Nigerians themselves are the ones at this point. So if I don't know if you saw in the morning, I put up a thread on Twitter where I was basically appealing to Yoruba people specifically. I was basically appealing to them that please, Tinubu will come and go, right? But if because of him you allow yourself turn into Hutu and Tutsi, that problem will outlive him, and you will create a problem that will not go away for generations. But he will go, all because he had some short-term political interest in mind. So please, for your own sake, don't let this man create problem for you. You and these people that he's trying to get you to see them as your enemy or whatever. Two of you have lived side by side for over 1 years in the same West African sub-region. You've never had a single armed conflict between yourselves. You've never fought before. There is no historical record of a single fight between any Igbo group and the Yoruba group. That's never happened. And bear in mind that the distance between Idanre in Ondo State and Onitsha in Anambra State is just about 150 kilometers. So you are not far, even historically, we're not far away from each other. And there's no instance in history where two of you butted heads, because fundamentally we're not even that different, right? If you draw the line back far enough, you can prove this by analyzing the similarities in our languages and stuff. We actually come from a common ancestor. So this man that is creating this thing that didn't exist before, because that's the only thing that he understands: divide and conquer, divide and rule. I hope you know that this man is going to go. He doesn't even have that long left, objectively speaking. Right? This man cannot stand upright for 30 minutes without a steroid injection. It's not because of an old man that you're going to spoil your life. The reason I put up that thread was I've given up on the idea of Tinubu dialing down or stopping the things he has been doing. He's not. Why would he stop? It has worked for him all his life. And now that he's getting closer to the end of his life and he has gotten everything he ever wanted, he has been sworn in as president. That's his lifetime ambition. Why would he stop now? As far as he's concerned, that's just an endorsement of the fact that all his methods are actually the right methods because they work. So he's not going to stop. He's going to intensify everything he's doing. So I just put out a plea to Nigerians directly that please, for your own good and for our own collective good, don't let this man turn us into 1993, 1994 Rwanda. Please, because this man is going to, as he has come like this, one day he too will go. Whether that is in a few weeks' time, whether that's in 4 years' time, whether that's in 8 years' time, we don't know. But he will definitely go at some point. So you don't want to spoil our collective destiny because of one man. At this point, that's all I can do. I can appeal directly to Nigerians and hope that they see the point.
It didn't go through or go over their head. Now, you know one thing people have said, David, which I picked, is the fact that some are saying that it is either the Nigerians are suffering from the PTSD of what APC represents and what Buhari did to them, or because according to them, they feel like, is it not too early to start being so worried of what Tinubu can become? Then it surprised everybody the first day. So, David, putting that to you. In your view, do you think all this that we have actually kind of talked about, are they not coming from the PTSD of what Nigeria has done and Buhari? That is it not too early?
So the thing is that, um, as we say in the field of, well, it's not a field, but if you're into making projections, not predictions, projections, your number one data set that is important to you is historical data, because it's from historical data that you project what is likely to happen. And we're not making predictions, we're not making guesses, we're just projecting what is likely to happen based on historical precedent. And the historical precedent is that, first of all, from Tinubu's own precedent as a politician and as an office holder from his time in Lagos, you can reasonably expect that so and so and so is what's going to happen. So, what did he do when he was governor of Lagos? The first thing he did was that the organized crime network in Lagos, the Agberos, the motor cartels, the people who sell weed, who later graduated to selling cocaine and other things, he brought all those low lives under a sort of semi-official umbrella. He brought them under the umbrella of government and made them part of government. He turned them into an avenue for, basically creating a slush fund, right? Because when we say he collects informal taxes using these people, I think that's a very euphemistic term. That's a very euphemistic way of saying that he uses them to build up a slush fund that is not on government's books, because that's what it is, a slush fund, right? That's what he did when he was governor of Lagos. He built up a huge financial war chest in streets, extortion, right? And that money wasn't going into government coffers. Where was that money going? We don't know, but it was going somewhere where he had control of it. And with that war chest, he was able to build, starting from what was then the AD, and then later the AC, then the ACN. He built, at a point, people forget that Tinubu only had control of just one state in Nigeria, which was Lagos. And then slowly he built his way across the southwest when it expanded into AC and ACN. And then after the 2011 elections, they made a deal with the CPC and the ANPP, and then what now became the APC. He then went national. The money that did all of this was dirty money. So now that he has reached the center, why would he stop? So this isn't people scaremongering, or this isn't people who are traumatized or have PTSD because of Buhari. This is just making an educated projection based on historical data that this is what is likely to happen. Now that he's in Abuja, he's simply going to reprise the templates from Lagos. You've already seen his daughter going and calling herself the Aloja General of Nigeria. I mean, she was the Aloja of Lagos, supposedly. Now she's calling herself the General of Nigeria. We don't yet know what that means, but the intent is very clear that that's how these people see governance, that they should bring the Lagos templates and scale it up to the federal level. So the way is in Lagos, we have an LIRS, that's the Lagos Internal Revenue Service. But we then have a private company called Alpha Beta that does the work of the LIRS, that duplicates his work, and that actually collects the revenue. So they will simply scale that up to the federal level. So instead of FIRS doing the job it's equipped to do, we now start having private companies, or a private company controlled by Tinubu.
David.
Yeah.
I never thought of that too. So Alpha Beta can now be in charge of collecting revenue for Nigeria. They just have to design.
Yes. And it's a tech-based platform, so it doesn't take much to scale it up. Arguably, the infrastructure already exists. It's a touch of a button, and it can go national.
Wow. That seems like a nightmare. And like you said, projection, not prediction. Nobody's predicting here. Just putting one and two together, it's easier to say, okay, well, take a look, like you just did. David, it's been so wonderful having you. Even though I wish it could be so much longer, but I'm still going to steal you for a few more minutes anyway, okay? Meanwhile, I'm going to kind of give a shout out to everyone. I don't know, you streaming this as well, David? You could. Remember that.
Sorry?
Are you streaming this as well?
No, I'm not. I'm just, I'm on the StreamYard.
Yeah, you could. In case of next time, all right, you can always plug in your channel as well, and we can do this together, all platforms, okay? Yeah. So one of the things that I am kind of interested in, although it is a rhetorical one. I mean, rhetorical one, no, sure you get. But nevertheless, you are a journalist that can pretty much give a wider perspective, like more on it. And that question is that of the potential people that will be the either Senate president and the speaker, but that of the Senate president. You see, Akpabio, the same guy that is accused of plundering over 11 trillion naira at the NDDC, with nothing to show for it. Then you have a Kalu, ex-convict, that abracadabra Kali, Supreme Court freed him on technicality. Either of these two guys could be the Senate president of Nigeria. So does that mean that with how Buhari had it, Tinubu is going to have that free fall? So Nigerians should never even like look forward to anybody making a bit of a push in all of these projection at all, like the Senate of Nigeria.
Well, so the thing is, if the Oga at the top, if the Oga at the top is a criminal, why wouldn't he surround himself with fellow criminals? Why would he surround himself with anybody who potentially could push back on his criminality someday? It doesn't make sense now. If you're an organized crime boss, if you're a mafia don, what you do is that the crime organization that you put together, you make sure that the people who are in key positions are people who are either loyal to you or people that you can blackmail and you can control them using something you have over them. So why would Tinubu put some straight-laced, clean person in any of those positions? No, it would be an Akpabio. It would be an Ojiuzo Kalu. That's what he would. It makes sense if you look at it from his point of view. Tinubu is not a stupid person. Tinubu is a very rational person. It's just that he's a sociopath. He's ruthless and amoral. That's all. But if you can put yourself in his shoes for a minute, it makes perfect sense. It's very logical that that's what he does. It's for the same reason that a lot of the people in the political formation that he has around him, you have people like Femi Gbajabiamila, also an ex-convict. The Ogun State governor was named Dapo Abiodun, ex-convict. Ovie Omagege, ex-convict. He surrounds himself with such people. It's not by accident, right? It's not by accident. It's part of the plan. You need to have people who understand your vision, who have as much to lose, if not more. Like you will be loyal to you, or be afraid of you, and will do what you say. So it makes perfect sense that you would have such people around.
So what do you think about the argument of Wike, who said all he did is basically to protect the southern interests? Because if he didn't, by now, we would probably have Atiku, another Fulani man from northern Nigeria. So you've kind of, I don't know if you've avoided him for a long time. I've not really seen you speak about him and all that, right? So in this...
Wike is not... So I don't know whether Rivers State is operating under some kind of like ancestral curse or something, because 3 successive governors of Rivers State have all done the same thing. They've all made the same error 3 consecutive times. So in 2007, Peter Odili convinced himself that he will be president someday, or at least he vice president. And then he got himself into the mix, and they ended up getting absolutely nothing, and ended up basically completely falling out of the political reckoning altogether. Then Rotimi Amechi came into the picture, and Rotimi Amechi sold himself the exact same dream. He was going to be vice president and president. And at the end of the day, he ended up being transport minister, and then they discarded him like a used pure water bag. And then Wike sold himself the exact same dream all over again, that he was going to be vice president, and they've done it again. So I feel as if, like, if you enter the government house in Rivers State as a governor, maybe like you need to visit whatever religious institution that you worship with, and they need to wash your head and pray for you, because, like, I don't know how the same mistake can happen 3 times in a row. And these are not dumb people; these are not unintelligent people. Wike is a lawyer, So I don't know how he made such a relation. I don't know what he thought was going on. It's very clear if you've been following the news cycle. The way they strategically allowed the world to know that Peter Obi actually won the presidential election in Rivers State, and it was very crudely rigged by Wike. What they were doing by that, they leaked that news to Premium Times and to the BBC, what they did with that was to basically sacrifice Wiki. They threw him under the bus. Nothing for him. So he can go around trying to justify himself that, oh, he was fighting for the South or whatever. He's fooling himself. Because if he was fighting for the South, we know who he would have pitched his tent with. And that person was Peter Obi. He didn't.
I'm talking about
so,
Peter Obi.
You know, good luck to him.
I have spent almost 2 hours, David, and we've not even made Peter Obi any point of conversation at all. And you know why I decided to keep that for the last, or to the last part of the conversation, is because not long ago, even those who are in the other camp, you know, publicly kind of confessed that if not for Peter Obi repeatedly telling people to calm down, calm down, calm down, there are people, the obedient were capable enough of organizing and mobilizing themselves and occupying Nigeria from the 1st of March when Yakubu made that announcement. That is the only reason why a lot of people are kind of having, like, some people are not happy with that as well. But I think 2 days ago or yesterday, it was on one of this, I think it was Space, Twitter Space or so. And then he tweeted a lot as well when he said he knows that there are already planned action to come after him, come after those who are around him, in order to wear all his support base down with different accusations, attacks against his personality and all of that. Could this be a cry for help to what is still to come from Peter Obi, from your own perspective, David?
So from what I know of him, he's an individually what's the word, tenacious person, very much so. So I don't think he's asking for anybody's pity or help. I don't think he needs it. I think he's perfectly capable of fighting his own battles.
You know what I mean? Like, just saying that, you guys, we are going to need ourselves.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, I understand what he was trying to do. He was trying to, because even within the Labour Party, the obedient movement, there were several people who were very displeased with the fact that he did not adopt a hard line toward the fraud that we all witnessed in real time, you know, on between February 25 and when the results were announced. I remember I myself, you know, I mean, I didn't tell him this. I didn't really tell anybody this, but I myself, inside, I was thinking within myself that why are you taking this lying down? Why are you being so cool? Why are you being so calm about this? Because if I was the one, I mean, maybe that's why I'm not a politician. And if I was, I wouldn't be a very successful one. But if I was the one, and I know that I won this election, and then you've stolen it from me in this very crude, cartoonish way, like you are canceling zero and adding it here, like all that nonsense that we saw, they would have been held to pay, right? But obviously, Peter Obi has a much cooler head than I do, and I appreciate that too. Maybe that's what works at times like this. Maybe the establishment was expecting the kind of reaction that they would have given if they were in that. Because I know if it was a Tinubu that was in that situation and he won the election organically, and then somebody stole it from him, he would have called all his talks. There would have been a civil war. There would have been problems. People would have died for sure. You know, because all those elections that Tinubu was in charge of between 1999 and 2000 and even 2019 in Lagos, every election faithfully people die in Lagos, both federal and state. Faithfully, every election somebody must die. It's how it goes. So maybe, you know, he was trying to do something different. Maybe he was trying to do something new. And I've also been told, you know, very privileged information that the security establishment was on very high alert, specifically regarding him throughout the election period. Buhari and Tinubu were able to create that idea or create that narrative that Peter Obi is leading some sort of insurrectionist movement, so he should be subject to what other people are not subject to. So I guess in that context, I can kind of understand why he was reluctant to be seen to be instigating anything, because I know that if he had ever at any point come out, even the things that his VP candidate said, that Baba Ahmed, he could never say such things. I know if he had ever come out to say such thing, TV or whatever, there would have been a problem in Nigeria. There would have been a problem, and he would definitely have been arrested. And the fact that he would have been arrested would have caused another problem. That's
what I'm actually
problems. So
David,
I guess
I'm coming back to that of arrest, because what people said is that as much as he seems to be able to kind of communicate his sort of apologies and all of that to his supporters, right? That people still feel like he's been too apologetic. Every now and then, apology, right? But they said no matter how much is Al-Kama or how much Kami he has in him, if by any means he got arrested, and the breaking news says he's been arrested, that he himself will not be able to control the aftermath. Do you believe that too?
Yes, I do. I think the obedient movement wasn't something that he himself was or is in control of. It's a movement that happened to coalesce around him. But I mean, it would exist even without him. So I think he was aware that these young people are uniquely energized and they're uniquely angry in a way that maybe we've never seen before in Nigeria's history. So if I do anything that sort of sets them off, or if I put them in a situation where they feel like they have to come out and defend my honor on the streets or something, somebody's going to die or people are going to die. And I don't think he wanted to have that on his conscience. I can completely understand him. However, having said that, what I will also say is that the Nigerian people themselves also need to be aware that at the end of the day, regardless of how much Peter wants to disrupt the political system, regardless of how much he would, in my opinion, he would be a good president, regardless of all of that, the fact is that at the end of the day, he's a successful business person within the existing Nigerian system. So from a purely personal point of view, it's not in his interest to call for people to come and grind that system to a halt. Peter Obi is not Bobby Wine from Uganda, right? He's not an activist, and he's never going to be. He's a billionaire businessman. People should always remember that. So the idea that at any point, regardless of however much it might have been good for his political aspirations, but the idea that he was ever at any point going to come out and advocate for people to engage in civil disobedience, I think that's fanciful. That's not his niche. That's not his thing. And it would never have been in his interest. I can understand that. So,
right. You know, one more thing I want to ask. This one is something that, like, as usual, as we have been doing, just your views on it generally, because there are happenings that a lot of them are connected to what is even happening in Nigeria generally. For 7 years, Buhari pretended that he had good intention for clamping down on the agitators like Nnamdi Kanu, Sunday Igboho, only for the whole thing to end up like trophy hunting. Now, Buhari is gone. He's probably had no idea what to do with Nnamdi Kanu anymore. Yeah? He had no clue what he's going to do with Sunday Igboho anymore. Now, one of the things people are saying is that under this kind of where everybody is looking for justice here and there, knowing the history of this whole thing, do you think Tinubu will be inheriting Buhari's enemy or Buhari's fight in some context? And what do you think generally should happen? Mm-hmm.
I think from a Machiavellian point of view, politically, I think the smartest move politically would be for Tinubu to release Nnamdi Kanu. Because what that would do is twofold. First of all, it will completely disarm Nnamdi Kanu and the entire Biafra to completely disarm it. Right? The Biafra movements,
disarm it or de-escalate it sometimes, yeah?
De-escalate is what I mean. I'm using the word disarm in
you are a journalist and you know what that means. Once they quote you there, they can just cut it on and you know. But anyway, David, continue. Is released.
So I guess it's safe to say that the Biafran agitators probably view Tinubu as their natural enemy. Right. So if he then releases their prophets, instantly what that means is that he has done what Buhari not do, which is that he released the person that means so much to them. And then that person himself can no longer have any locus standi and advocate for any kind of action against the government that released him. He can't do that. So I think that is one of those rare situations where it could actually end up being a win-win for everybody. If Tinubu ends up doing what you expect him to do, the political calculation I've just laid out, I expect him to do that. I think he will do that.
What does that mean in the North, in the other context? What does that mean? Remembering that they had to announce his capture, or sorry, his kidnapping from Kenya, they had to announce it even in Hausa, purposely for the Hausa audience. What would that mean?
The thing is, even the Northerners are aware that, so they view the Buhari presidency as a Northern presidency. So that's why it was so important to them that it was all about showing, flexing muscle and showing who is in charge now. But I think the Northern Power Bloc is aware that it's the Yoruba people's time in Abuja now, or at least that's how it's perceived. So they themselves, they are aware that they've had their turn and they have to either wait for another turn or at least pretend to wait for another turn. So I don't think it's necessarily going to cause that much of an issue. I don't think, first of all, just the type of reaction that Nnamdi Kanu used to generate nationwide, I don't think it generates that kind of reaction anymore. I don't think it's that important anymore. Right? I think from the northern political establishment's point of view, Peter Obi is probably even more of a threat, or is considered more of a threat than Nnamdi Kanu, even though their aspirations are completely different. So at this point, I don't think there's anything to gain from keeping him in custody. So maybe they'll keep him for a month or two, and then one day you just hear that they've released him. They will find,
and that could be their own way of saying, "Okay, I'm ready to listen. I'm stretching my hand out, and let's see where this leads us or take us." Somehow, like you said,
they might even use that. They might even use that as their big. Because I know one thing about Tinubu is, in this game of divide and conquer that he does, when he has finished setting up two groups of people to fight each other, and he has sort of raised one group to see itself as the one that is oppressing the other one, the oppressed group, he will then go and quietly reach out to them through the back door and give them a bone as well, so that they will feel some gratitude to him, and that's how he maintains control of both. So I think that would be the bone that he would throw to what he considers to be the Igbo political movement. That, okay, I freed Nnamdi Kanu. I think that's what he would do, because that's how he thinks. Again, if you think as a ruthless, logical, amoral person, it makes sense.
Now, finally, David, I've enjoyed my night so far, and then it's been quite, sort of informative, I'll say. I enjoyed it, and I kind of we're coming to the end of the charts. So, David, one powerful tool that has really rattled Nigeria and the establishments, that even in my own lifetime, I can attest to it, you too, is the tool of what the social media is and the power that it wields. And it's one area that they have not been able to dominate or control. And they have been looking for ways and means and all of that if they could. Some people are now saying, Nigeria may kiss Twitter goodbye soon. So with other social media and all of that, we know the last time they did it and what that meant for those who are like younger entrepreneurs all over the place. Yeah. We know what that meant for so many people and their customers and all of that. So do you see that happen again? Like, David, because the more things cause, people are going to be reacting. We're never going to stop reacting. And it seems that, they believe, even the Nigeria Judiciary Supreme Court said they are being bullied by social media. So do you think Nigerians will have to kiss Twitter goodbye first soon? Or maybe they will just have to live up to it and then they match us up in this whole thing? Like, your view?
I mean, I hope they don't. I don't see the significant benefits in doing so. But is Tinubu the kind of person who would do so? Yes, he absolutely is, especially now that he has absolute power. Um, he's probably the kind of person who would do that. So I hope they don't. But at the same time, I'll be lying if I said that I don't see it happening. Um, I just hope they don't, and I hope they also understand that even if they do, I mean, even during the so-called Twitter ban in 2021, Nigerians were still on Twitter because there's such a thing as a VPN, right? There are free VPNs. So at the end of the day, what difference does it really make? You know, you will keep a few 100,000 people who don't know any better or who are not tech savvy enough off social media, but the bulk of the user base will still be there. And then you will not be able to control or monitor it because you would have basically locked yourself out of it, which is what happened in 2021. So I hope they have smarter people around them this time because I feel like the Buhari administration was very sort of testosterone driven. So even the announcement of the Twitter ban, it was so obvious that it was in response to the president's temper tantrum. It was so obvious then. So I want to believe that Tinubu's people are a bit more, especially when it comes to foreign optics, being that these are people that are obsessed with how they look in international media. I want to believe that they're a bit more savvy. So
and to
they,
go that route. Well, that's quite fair,
yeah.
David, because that's one fair judgment you just gave them right now, which is giving them a benefit of doubt, Abi. But you are not ruling it out in
So
case
it's
if
not a matter, it's not even a case of not ruling it out. What I'm saying is they will try and do something about it, but it might not be something as simplistic as a ban. So if you notice, shortly before the inauguration, I forget who it was. I think it was Festus Keyamo also was making noises about enhanced regulation of social media. I think it was actually Saturday. It was making about enhanced regulations. And then sometime yesterday or the day before, Muiwa Adejobi, that's the police force PRO, he tweeted a message. And in that message, there were 4 pictures from the force headquarters in Abuja. And he was talking about how the police now has the resources and the capability to dominate the social media space. So, and if you look at the pictures, so there's like a whiteboard, like a computer screen is projected, and you can tell that there's a platform that they are using to analyze basically the web footprint of a particular email address. So that email address could be linked to a Twitter handle that tweeted something. So then they go and do a deep web analysis of the email address linked to it, and they try and figure out who is behind that email address so that they can go and arrest the person. I think they're going to be doing more of that. I think they're going to start picking people up. So that instead of just coming out and banning social media, which is it's very crude and which creates bad international headlines, they will instead start picking people up one by one. And then instead of saying that we're arresting this person for what he posted on social media, they'll find one innocuous language to use. But so that people understand that it's because of what they're posting on social media that they're getting arrested, but you can't prove it. So what that does is that it then creates a chilling effect. So people start to censor themselves. So I think that's what they will do. They might not go out and ban it altogether, but they will try and strike fear into people's hearts, basically, to try and make them start self-censoring.
David, thank you so much. Yeah, I kind of would want us to continue, but sometimes short and brief and sweet keeps the quality. Baba, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate all the contribution tonight as well. So, but the obedient who happen to be watching us tonight, right? I don't know if that's your thing, right? You might want to say one or two things to just everyone when it comes to, I don't know if it's an advice or something, right? You just be like, well,
I
this is
mean,
what I've.
so I don't, I'm not some kind of senior prefect in the obedient movement or anything. I'm just a random guy. But what I will say is, basically, when I fled Nigeria November 2020, right, and by February 2021, my life had fallen apart completely. I'd run through all my life savings. I was on the verge of, I was very lonely. My relationship had fallen apart. My then girlfriend couldn't deal with all the upheaval and she moved on to someone else really, really quickly. And I was in a very bad space psychologically. And one guy whose name I won't mention, but he's somebody who actually left Nigeria around the same time that I did for a similar reason. He told me that, and this thing he told me that's stuck in my mind ever since, and I've never forgotten it. He said, before you allow yourself fall into despair, make sure that you've exhausted all your available options first. So make sure you've gone through every opportunity in front of you first, and you've exhausted all your options first before you allow yourself to fall into despair. So in other words, while there's still an option, or while there's still some kind of avenue that potentially could lead to a positive outcome in front of you, focus on that first. So before you get to the part of giving up and weeping and wearing sackcloth, first for what is possible first. So there's an ongoing legal process, there's an ongoing judicial process. Are the courts independent enough? We don't know. We'll see. But as far as we're concerned, there's a legal process going on. So follow the legal process through to its logical conclusion first, and then we'll take it from there.
I like that. Thank you so much, David. And yeah, you have a wonderful evening. Okay.
You too.
So this is where we're going to draw the curtains tonight. I would have probably taken a course, but let's go and sort of sleep on that. All we have heard tonight is not to scare you; it is to prepare us. It is going to be very rough. Yeah, they are not going to tell you, to get ready. It's going to be dropping every now and then, and lives will be at stake too. So, thank you so much too for your time, for joining me. If this is your first time of joining Mayegun, you can like this broadcast, share it if you haven't already, and subscribe too, because I will see you some other time when we have our usual. So tomorrow we may have our People's Parliament tomorrow, where you would have a chance of sharing your own personal kind of view on all of this. At the end of the day, now all of us go stitch up the breakfast. But it's good to have an idea of what is coming than to be surprised like you are currently facing. But I wish you all the best. So thank you so much, everyone, for your time. I will see you some other time. Until then, stay safe, and good night.
Mayegun làwa mọ̀ làmọ̀ tó dòdòdò.
Mayegun Diary, Mayegun #1.
Mayegun làwa mọ̀ làmọ̀ tó dòdòdò.
Mayegun Diary, Mayegun #1.
Mayegun ti dé o, ọ̀rẹ́ ará yìí.
Mayegun Diary, Mayegun #1.
Lórí Facebook, lórí YouTube.
Mayegun Diary, Mayegun #1.
Gbogbo bó ṣe ń lọ ni Mayegun já wa sí.
Mayegun Diary, Mayegun #1.
Àṣírí ọ̀jẹ̀lú kì í bò níbẹ̀ o.
Mayegun Diary, Mayegun #1.
Bó bá ṣe eré, àní Mayegun máa wí.
Mayegun Diary, Mayegun #1.
Ó sì tún ṣe eré, wàá gbọ́ níbẹ̀ o.
Mayegun Diary, Mayegun #1.
Mayegun Diary, Diary Politico.
Mayegun Diary, Mayegun #1.
Godfatherism kò sí lọ́rọ̀ Mayegun.
Mayegun Diary, Mayegun #1.
Ẹ farabalẹ̀ sẹ́ o, kẹgọ́rọ̀ lẹ́nu o.
Mayegun Diary, Mayegun #1.
Àní Mayegun làwa mọ̀ tó dòdòdò.
Mayegun Diary, Mayegun #1.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé. Mayegun ti dé.
Ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Lórí Facebook.
Mayegun ti dé.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Lórí YouTube. Yusuf.
Máyégún ti dé.
Àní ẹ̀sùn làjù.
Máyégún ti dé.
Bọ́ bàbá gbé wúrẹ́.
Máyégún máa wí.
Àní ẹ̀sùn làjù.
Máyégún ti dé.
Ijó ìgbádìyẹ.
Máyégún máa wí.
Àní ẹ̀sùn làjù.
Máyégún ti dé.
Bí pẹ̀sìdó bá rúfin o.
Máyégún máa wí.
Àní ẹ̀sùn làjù.
Máyégún ti dé.
Bí gómìnà kówó jẹ.
Máyégún máa wí.
Àní ẹ̀sùn làjù.
Máyégún ti dé.
Ọlọ́pàá tí ń darí bá.
Máyégún máa wí.
Àní ẹ̀sùn làjù.
Máyégún ti dé.
Aṣòfin tí ń rúfin o.
Máyégún máa wí.
Àní ẹ̀sùn làjù.
Máyégún ti dé.
Òkúra olóṣèlú.
Máyégún máa wí.
Àní ẹ̀sùn làjù.
Máyégún ti dé.
Ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀sùn ràgì.
Máyégún ti dé.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràgì.
Máyégún ti dé.
Máyégún ti dé. Gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀sùn ràgì. Máyégún ti dé. Gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀sùn ràgì. Ṣùgbọ́n ní bá ti ṣe èyí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe, ọmọ bá dèrò ní fi wọ́n níran o.
Máyégún ti dé. Gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀sùn ràgì. Máyégún ti dé. Gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀sùn ràgì. Ṣùgbọ́n ní bá ti ṣe èyí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe, ọmọ bá dẹ̀rọ̀ ò ní fi wọ́n níran.
Wọ́n fowó bẹ́ẹ̀ o, Máyégún ó sọ pé wọ́n ò bẹ́ẹ̀. Wọ́n fowó bẹ́ẹ̀, Máyégún ó sọ pé wọ́n ò bẹ́ẹ̀. Oníkanṣá ti ṣe èyí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe, fáwọn ará ìlú tó gbé wọn débẹ̀ o. Ayé.
Máyégún ti dé. Gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀sùn ràgì. Máyégún ti dé. Gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀sùn ràgì. Ṣùgbọ́n ní má ti ṣe yìí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe, ọmọ bá dẹ̀rọ̀ ò ní fi wọ́n níran.
Ha! Kì máa yí ṣeré, ọ̀rọ̀ yìí kì í ṣẹ̀fẹ̀. Kì máa yí ṣeré, ọ̀rọ̀ yìí kì í ṣẹ̀fẹ̀. Ẹni bá ti lè lẹ́bọ̀ lẹ́rù o, ọmọ bá dèrò kàṣàyè tú wọn síta.
Máyégún ti dé. Gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀sùn ràgì. Máyégún ti dé. Gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀sùn ràgì. Ṣùgbọ́n ní má ti ṣe yìí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe, ọmọ bá dẹ̀rọ̀ ò ní fi wọ́n níran.
Tẹnitẹni ọmọ Máyégún ọ̀rẹ́ ara ìlú mọ̀mọ́ ni mo fọlọ́hún ṣọ́ ẹ̀ bá kìlẹ́bù. Lóòótọ́ olódodo ìlú ọ̀tá ìlú mọ̀mọ́ ni ìwọ ṣá máa ń ṣọ́ra kò sì mọ́ bẹ̀rù. Bọ́tà ń lè rí bóníṣègùn lé káwọn mọ̀mọ́ fi ṣera wọn ni ó ti dẹrùn tí wọn ò gbọ́dọ̀ sì mọ́ bẹ̀. Èèpo ọ̀bọ lọmọ bá dérò tàjẹ́ ò gbọ́dọ̀ jẹ́, ó ti jọba lórí àbínú ẹni kò sì mọ́ bùyà. Àìsíwọ́lu ní ẹnìkẹ́ ìgbódì ẹyin lábàrá o, ó kó ẹni tó bá dán o àkàmù. Máyégún ti dé. Gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀sùn ràgì. Máyégún ti dé. Gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀sùn ràgì o. Ẹni bá ti ṣe èyí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe, ọmọ bá dèrò òní fi wọ́n níran o.
Máyégún ti dé. Gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀sùn ràgì. Máyégún ti dé. Gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀sùn ràgì. Ṣùgbọ́n ní bá ti ṣe yìí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe, ọmọ bá dẹ̀rọ̀ ò ní fi wọ́n níran.